Well, so many issues to take on, especially when it concerns politics of the general elections of 2023, starting with Ekiti and Osun states coming up shortly. But then, that question of whether or not to extend the timeline is one of the issues we'll take on this morning with Yabagi Sani, who is chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC. He joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning. Well, first of all, so many people might be wondering, for instance, all of the parties had all the time in the world, 4 years before this general election. So what, in your opinion, would necessitate an extension that IPAC is asking for?
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. First of all, let me commend the good work that INEC has been doing to entrench democracy and firm the roots of democracy in this country. You will recall that before this time, the elections were just like anything goes. But today, we are able to have a law, that is the 2022 Electoral Law, Act, that has introduced certain features that will guarantee that we are going to have a free, fair, all-inclusive, and credible elections in this country. And the most important aspect of that law is the fact that we have a recourse now, meaning that if after everything is done, you are not satisfied, you can now go to the computers and be able to get your records and then tender it wherever you may need to. Having said that, IPAC is on the same page with INEC. But when you look at this electoral act itself that has been introduced, it took too much time. Really, it took the National Assembly and the executive. I don't know. It's too long. For them to conclude. The processes that gave birth to this very important piece of legislation. The filibustering is what, if we had done this long time ago and the parties were able to digest, what this law is all about, until, we will not by this time be saying, asking INEC to extend, the time for the primaries. Number two, you will recall that the time given by INEC to parties to conduct their primaries is between April 4th to June 3rd. Between that, since April 4th to now, we have had some holidays that were not factored into INEC program. And these holidays took about 2 weeks out of the time that the parties should have used, to conduct, make preparations towards carrying out these very important activities, which is the primaries. And that primaries, that selection of candidates is very, very important. It's the most fundamental aspect of getting it right. Because if we rush this process and we did not, invest the time and resources required in ensuring that we have credible people that will deliver, dividends of democracy to Nigerians, and we make mistakes in this process, people would take litigations will just come, and care is not taken, may even attempt to derail what we are trying to do, because the attentions of the parties and even the INEC itself will be taken away by litigations that will come because we had to rush through the process. Number three, today we are battling with the issue of fuel shortages. The fuel shortage that has been introduced, for reasons we don't know, nobody knows how long it's going to take. So it's going to hamper movement. And these things will affect, the ability of parties to do a very, good, exercise in terms of having a good primaries that will be rancor-free. So this is why, and I'm sure INEC themselves, after our consultative engagement, I'm sure, by now we'll be thinking, we'll have a second, thought about what they have said that they are going to do. Definitely, when you introduce, guidelines, it doesn't speak well of you if you have to change it in the middle of the game. So, but this is things that are extraneous to the process. These are things that nobody planned. We didn't know these things are going to happen. We didn't, or rather, when INEC was preparing the program, the holidays, for instance, were not factored into and there are realities. During holidays, you can't move. You have to be. The offices are open, and then now that we are battling with this fuel shortage, we will have problems of logistics. So this is why we are appealing to INEC, and INEC knows that we are being altruistic, that we are as passionate as INEC is to ensure that we get it right this time around, that this democracy, succeeds. So that is why...
Engineer Sani, I'd like to come in there, particularly to, talk about the validity of the reasons that IPAC is giving for the extension of time. Most of the contentious issues informing the back and forth on the amendment of the Electoral Act were subjects of debate in the public space, i.e. whether parties were going to have direct primaries or indirect primaries, i.e. the demand for electronic transmission of electoral results and all of that. Against that backdrop, I could add other issues as well, but against that backdrop, shouldn't political parties have been proactive rather than reactionary by making their decisions tentatively, debating on these issues behind closed doors ahead of this time, such that it would not now be racing against time?
No, remember that even INEC itself had to adjust the timetable at one time when the bill was given assent to by Mr. President. Elections, the presidential election was supposed to take place February 18. They had to, adjust the timetable to accommodate, the delays so that we will not be outside the Constitution, taking it now to February 25th. And the issue of direct or indirect primaries of consensus is not an issue that will affect the timetable really, in actual sense. That is not why we're asking for the extension. Direct or indirect, it's an issue that parties, depending on your decision, of your NWC. If you choose to go direct, fine. If you indirect or all of them are covered by the law. So we don't have any issues with that. What we have issues with is the time frame that is given by INEC. It's too tight. That's what we are saying. That too tight in the sense that time that would have been used to carry out this exercise is being hampered by other extraneous factors that were not factored into the time frame. And the other point you must also understand is the fact that we are not in any way asking INEC to violate the Constitution. The Constitution says 6 months to the conduct of the elections, the presidential election in this case, parties should conclude all processes, and INEC should have finished everything about candidates and whatever. And then the 2 months we're asking for, we are still within that allowance given by the Constitution. It will not affect the 6 months required by the Constitution before INEC, before we finish the processes. And we are also aware that INEC has to do certain things by the time we finish our primaries, like printing of ballot papers, like other issues that they have of logistics and things like that. But now that they have introduced digitalization to their processes, we believe that the necessity of this request is that it's not just frivolous. It's something that came as a result of realities that are on ground now. And you can't tell me that we are not having problems with logistics in this country in terms of movement, and that the fuel shortages that have been, that is happening now. You can't tell me that 2 weeks out of the program that's supposed to be 60 days is not an issue. It's an issue that you must factor in, and thank God that we still have time. So I'm sure INEC knows that IPAC and political parties are very, very passionate about INEC getting it right. Because remember, this is one election that is different to all other elections we're having. And this is why we want to make sure we don't create loopholes for those who are looking for ways by which they can probably frustrate, the exercise. We shouldn't give them a chance. And when you rush anything, chances are that you will make mistakes. And people are there to capitalize on these mistakes, by calling for all sorts of things that may not even augur well for the entire process that we want to embark upon.
Well,
so that is why we're asking for time.
Yeah, Engineer Sonny, one of the issues that a number of people might also be asking right now is, I mean, look at generally the political parties. I mean, this whole campaign of this whole idea of primaries, selecting candidates and all of that started, as far as INEC was concerned, April 4. Today is March 10, or March 11. And so, beg your pardon, May 11. And a number of people will be wondering, why are the parties waiting for all this while? It's throughout last month, it would be like, it looked like no one was doing anything, no activity whatsoever. Perhaps that is why, I think since about 2 weeks or even a month ago, INEC had been saying to the parties, there will be no extension. Over and over again, INEC has been saying that perhaps trying to tell the political parties, get working. Maybe there are some other things happening behind the scene as far as the political parties are concerned, and which are not known. But the question then would be, Engineer Sonny, what were the parties waiting for all through April?
No. Like I said, when we had our holidays, what can you do during the holiday? The national holiday. That's the question you asked us.
Just a second. On that, Engineer Sonny, I apologize. We both know, Engineer Sonny, that there is no holiday for politicians. We both know that.
No holidays. No, but there are official things that you must do, getting some documents, putting together what you need to put together to become a candidate, an aspirant on a political party platform. And plus, this is democracy. We have to give people a chance to come forward, to participate in the process. It's not something that is so straitjacket thing that you railroad people to say, okay, go to this because there's this timeline you must meet and all. No, this democracy. And democracy presupposes that people are given that freedom, to exercise their franchise. And what we are saying, in essence, is that let us make haste, slowly. That's all we're saying, so that we don't make unnecessary mistakes that later we'll regret that. Why didn't we allow those, some allowance so that we can get this thing right? That's what we're saying.
Of those,
politicians are as passionate, and like a project, the more time you spend on any project at all, the more it costs you in terms of every resources that you have. So we ourselves are not asking for this time for the luxury of it. No, for the necessity of it, and we want to get it right.
What are some of those things, Engineer Sonny, that you think Nigerians... This is the first outing of both IPAC and ourselves on this law. This is the first outing. Yeah. And there are a lot of provisions in the electoral law that you must be careful how you go about it, so that you don't get yourself bogged. We don't want a situation where courts will be declaring, winners, of elections in this country. We want to have a much more robust, democracy where the processes, are delivered, as intended, not to go to court on every expense, mistake. Now, one of the considerations that you are asking for, Engineer Sonny, on behalf of all the political parties, is because, as you said, there are mistakes that could be made. What are some of these mistakes that we have made in time past that you think this extension will address, that INEC may not be aware of, for which reason they are insisting there is no extension?
The fact is that you must conduct your primaries, in accordance with the law. Like somebody, all the constitutional requirements, are there of ensuring that the age of the person coming to contest and the fact that people are not in any way shortchanged, by the political parties, and inadvertently, by mistake, you may shortchange somebody. So, but when you have time to do things properly, submit your papers, allow the political parties to check these papers, and you are able to check and then ensure that what you are giving to INEC itself is in line with the requirements of the law. These are the things that you cannot predict what can happen. A slightest mistake. This law is the first time we are coming out with this law to test this Electoral Act in 2022. And some people may say that some of the things that we're talking about have been there. No, not all of them have been there. The requirement is such that we need to be careful how we go about this. And we need to allow Nigerians also the space to participate in the democracy. We don't rush it. At the end of the day, some people that perhaps, will give this country the kind of government we want, maybe skimmed out, just because we want to rush. We are saying all this because we know there's still enough time, to do this.
Engineer Sani, it seems like you have returned to my point. You talked about time to conduct the primaries in accordance with the law. Wouldn't that seem to be the more valid, or the real reason, rather, not necessarily valid, for the delay in the conduct of primaries? For instance, some of the main political parties have, for weeks, been going back and forth on whether or not to pick the zoning option, which seems to be the tradition, or whether or not to throw the ticket open, for which a decision has not emerged even now. Isn't that the real reason for the delay? And there seems to be a lot of time wasting over managing all of these interests.
No. It's not time wasted. It's allowing Nigerians to have full, expression of their peculiarities, like somebody's from this zone, how will the president go here or go there, and all these things. These are not things you rush. These are things that you take your time to ensure that you assuage all manners of fears, of considerations and things like that. So, and plus also, you must remember that this act that we're talking about, even the National Assembly, as we speak today, they are still amending, some aspects of the act to tell you that this is not something that is completely perfect yet, and then so this is why that's what we're saying. They are amending some aspects of the law. You said it on your breaking your news, before this time. So we have to make haste slowly so we don't make avoidable mistakes that will cost us, unnecessary, precious, opportunity that we have today, to give this country the leadership it deserves. And that's what we are talking about. Governance is something that you don't rush. Selection of candidates is very, very fundamental. It's very important. We have to do it with the highest level of consideration, that we can bring to it. That's where we are today. If we were able to select our leaders, recruitment of leadership in the manner that we're supposed to do it, perhaps we will not be battling with some of the problems we are battling with today. So this is why we must get it right this time around. Nigerians are waiting for something better than what we are having today. And the only way we can do it is when we follow this process with the highest sense of responsibility and caution, so that if we are on the side of caution. It's better that way otherwise we find ourselves in so many court of laws, with litigations. We don't want to have that. We want to make sure we reduce chances of making mistakes. When you go to court, the court doesn't look at the mistakes. It doesn't say, oh, this is the first time we are trying this law. No. They just look at straight into what the law says, and they will make their ruling based on that. And we are good Westford. So this is politics. It is not a straitjacket thing. And politics has so many issues that you must take into consideration before you arrive at a decision. Like you said, this issue of zoning, this issue of, so many other issues coming up. We have to deal with them and properly in the interest of this country, so that we don't end up with a scenario that all of us will regret.
And talking about the process now and mistakes, given the new dynamics of the Electoral Act, i.e. Electronic transmission of results and e-voting and all of that, how prepared are political parties for the 2023 general elections, particularly in terms of sensitization of voters?
Well, this is one thing that I believe that political parties, are doing. That is why I'm sure you'll be seeing parties, even the meetings they were holding, trying to talk to this zone, talk to that zone, explaining to them that this is what it's all about. It's not that they want to in any way use up or deny any section of the country opportunity to govern this country. It is the fact that we need to have something that Nigerians will be proud of, something that can give this country that kind of great leap forward that we need economically, socially, and politically. That is why we need to take the much time we are taking. voter education, the issue of campaigning and things like that is going on. But there are fundamental issues that we must address, and it requires time. That's what we're talking about. That's why you are having parties not being able to say, okay, this is where we are bringing our president from, this side of the country. It's our reality that we must deal with. We can't sweep it under the carpet and then get ourselves into some kind of quagmire that, everybody will now say, well, we told you, that we can't make it. Nigeria is a country that people look up to, the whole world look up to us for leadership, especially on the continent of Africa. If we take time to do it right, there's nothing wrong with that, provided we do not violate the grand norm, which is the constitution of this country. The grand norm has not been touched by what we're asking for. We're all saying that, yes, INEC may need to put more resources, time and energy, but it is resources and energy that will be well spent because we are avoiding unnecessary pitfalls and things that we can predict will happen. When you do things in haste, even in your personal life, you are bound to make mistakes. That's all we are saying.
Well, Engineer Sonny, still on that matter, my colleague asked a fundamental question that I think we need to interrogate a little further. But this issue, again, that you have just mentioned now again, or reiterated about INEC insisting. Now that INEC has insisted again, reiterated his insistence that there will be no extension to the timelines of the elections, and that the June 3rd date is sacrosanct. What are the options for political parties?
Dialogue. And that's what we're doing with INEC, because we want to call their attention to, we're all human beings. Nobody is perfect in whatever we are doing. I cited just an example of National Assembly again, rushing back quickly to take a second look at some of the provisions of the Act. Who knows if the National Assembly in doing that now discovers that, oh, we also have to take into another look into the issue of timelines and things like that. I mean, we are human beings, and this is a human system. This is a social system. This is not anything that is so mechanistic that why we do this, we can't learn. We are not in a military administration. We are in a democracy. Democracy is about allowing people to have freedom of expression, of association, of how they are governed. And we are talking about how we are governed. That selection process of leadership is crucial to survival of democracy in this country. We have seen what has happened. When we did it the way we have been doing it. So this is what we are saying. And INEC, like you all know, believe me, you are the finest brains in that organization today. We are so proud of them. We know that they know what we are talking about. We know they will come out to say, well, because this is the realities that you are talking about, and because we want to get it right. We are not competing with anybody, that somebody will get there before us. No, this is us. This is Nigeria. We are not competing with them. Other countries are competing with us. We should do it right. We shouldn't say we have a timeline and then we become slaves to that timeline. No, even when we know that there's a mistake, you don't allow a mistake. If you don't correct the mistake will stop you. That's why we want to stop whatever we have seen as not perfect or not appropriate as we are. They are human beings. We are human beings. National Assembly, we have that. They are human beings. Like I said, they are rushing to check to again take another look at what they have given to even INEC and all of us. Okay. So there's nothing wrong. Nobody will lose face in this matter. It is being nationalistic and being alive to your responsibilities that will make you, to say, okay, let me step back and then see, is this okay? No, it's not okay. I mean, it takes knowledge to know that you are wrong. If you are wrong, it's only you are not knowledgeable that you don't even know you are wrong. If you discover you are wrong, it's not ordinary. For you to discover that something is wrong.
Perhaps,
so
Engineer Sonny,
together,
yes. Perhaps, INEC could have good reason to insist so far. Well, you're hoping that, maybe INEC would have a rethink on the issue, and perhaps not. In the event that INEC doesn't change its mind and insists on this timeline, what are the options for the parties?
No, I don't think INEC will toe that line, because INEC is more passionate. They are as committed as we are. They want it to succeed. They don't just want to do a job for the sake of doing it. They are not doing it. They are not robots. They are human beings. This is a social system. This is a system that you don't.
It's the same thing. Engineer Sonny, we hear you on that. But in the event that INEC insists that the timeline will not be altered, what are the options? What are the risks?
That has no space in democracy. Democracy allows you so much, latitude. There's nothing cast in stone in democracy. When people say this is what we want. So INEC will not toe that line. That's what I'm telling you. We are on the same page with them. We feel their pains. We know that it will mean more work for them, but more work for something better for all of us. We are doing it for Nigerians, not for ourselves. INEC is not there for INEC themselves. They are doing it for Nigeria. And they are more passionate, they are more committed, they are even as committed as we are.
Engineer Sani, you seem to sound confident that INEC is going to eventually bow to pressure and extend the timeline for primaries. But do you forget the limitations from the new electoral law that it has now placed on political parties? For instance, it says as it affects conflict, specifically clause 84-10-3 in the electoral law limits courts from stopping party primaries or elections from holding. It states nothing in this section shall empower the courts to stop the holding of primaries or general elections under the Act pending the determination of a suit. So these are some of the limitations that the new electoral law has placed on political parties in the case of conflict. Are you aware of this? And are you, racing against time just in case INEC does not grant your request to extend the primaries?
No. You see, nobody is resting. We're not just sitting down doing nothing. INEC knows that they say obey before complain. What they have given to us, all of us are rushing to obey. But we've discovered that we are bound to make mistakes, costly mistakes, that even INEC later will not be happy with what has happened. And that's why we are there. We are supposed to work together. It's not like a master-slave kind of thing. We are together in it. We have to cooperate, collaborate, and ensure that we get this process, that in such a manner that Nigerians will be happy with what we are doing. We are the same with INEC, believe me, as far as the goal is concerned. It's just that INEC can discover something and call us and say, change this. We can also call INEC and say, please take a second look at this. And it will not be because we don't want them to succeed. No, if whatever happens, in fact, we are the biggest beneficiaries in this process. INEC's job is just to supervise. That's all, and ensure that we do it right. We are the ones that will benefit from it at the end of the day. It's not INEC. So if we, the beneficiaries, are saying that, look at it this way, and the convention all over the world is that when we are doing anything, you involve the stakeholders so that perhaps they may know certain things that you don't know, and when you involve them, they own the process. If this had happened, we will own this process, we will own these timelines. But this is not something that we believe we should be so fixed on. We know why we are saying what we are saying, and INEC also knows that we mean well. We mean well. It's not that nobody is trying to rubbish INEC at all. If anything, INEC knows that we are one of the biggest defenders of INEC in any way at all, because we are happy with what they are doing.
Engineer Sani, do you think INEC preempted this request by the political parties by reiterating over and over and over again that there will be no extension to the timelines, knowing that the parties would come? They kept saying it for about between 2 weeks and 1 month now. Do you think they preempted you?
Well, I'm not sure. INEC will not do anything untowards, to political parties. Believe me, because our success is their success. So if they are saying it, they are saying it because they want parties to be alive to their responsibilities, which we are. And we are saying that, yes, we are going to do this, but let us do it this way. That's all we are saying. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with INEC has been saying, because they are saying it because they believe that we should be like I said, they are alive to what we are supposed to do. And we are alive to what we are supposed to do. But the issue now is that why did we have the engagement? Why did they have this quarterly consultative forum with political parties? Why? It's because of some of these issues. We come together and say, okay, let's take a look at what we have done so far. Take a look at what we want to do from here on.
Perhaps, Engineer Sani,
during this consultation,
INEC preempted. Just a second. Perhaps INEC was expecting. Just a second. Perhaps the INEC was saying that, okay, because the parties weren't doing anything for a significant while, so it would seem, And that's why INEC kept saying, you guys get to work. There will be no extension. Get to work. There will be no extension. But now there seems to be a rush all over the place. So perhaps that's why I'm asking, could INEC had preempted the political parties, seeing that no activity was actually happening early enough, in order to avoid the rush that you are alleging?
What I'm telling you is that the essence of consultative, forum, which we normally have with INEC, is to take a look at what we have done from the last, meeting to the next one, like the one we had yesterday, and also to now, tell INEC what we think about what we plan to do from yesterday to another 3 months that we are going to meet again. So, and then when you call people for meetings, of course, we are not robots. They don't expect us to say yes, yes, yes to everything they have done. They expect us to interrogate. They expect us to compare, to exchange, ideas. They are the regulatory agency. We are the ones that are implementing.
Engineer Sonny, can I ask you this? The notice, the timeline, was put out on February 26th. The question anyone would want to ask is,
February 28th.
February 26th of this year, being an organized institution, each of the political parties, and that's the timeline. The publication was made on the 28th, but it was signed on the 26th of February 2022 and made public to everybody at the time. And then it continued that way, on and on and on until 2023. The question anyone will be asking you now is, what were the parties waiting for before now?
Parties were not waiting for anything. The parties were politicking. And because that's what we are there for. We are not there to just rush the country into things that we know will not all go well for the country at the end of the day. The issues that Madam raised, or somebody raised it here, of where the president should come from, whether you want to believe it or not, it's an issue that this country must get right. We don't want to, end up, with a crisis-ridden, environment, as because we just conduct elections for the sake of conducting them. INEC doesn't want that too either. They want to see how we minimize crisis, how we minimize, all this unnecessary tension that you have in the politics. And the only way to do it is to give time to consult. I'm sure you are aware.
Engineer Sani,
this country, consulting with various stakeholders in the country. You don't do that within a span of say, okay, we'll give you a timetable, get it done. Yes, you can get it done, but this is politics. It's not like
it would seem as if we're not getting anywhere with what the parties were doing with all of the time. And in response to that, I'd like to say that the issue about where the president should come from is perhaps as old as Nigeria itself. But my colleague said earlier that we should interrogate the issue about the preparation of parties for the election a bit further. And in your response to that was that indeed parties have been carrying out voter education and sensitization activities. Unless we have missed it, I'd like you to talk a bit more about what political parties have been doing across board to prepare Nigerian voters for, the new introductions into the electoral process ahead of 2023.
Parties that have been doing quite a lot, like at IPAC level. We've been having meetings, we've been having workshops, we're having retreats, not for anything, but to discuss how do we get this exercise right, especially the one that concerns us in selection of leadership. How do we recruit leadership into offices in this country? So, and that is not something that you do, in haste. No. And you say you don't see parties doing. You people have been covering meetings that have been taking place, all over the country. You will see that this group will meet today. They will travel to this zone, travel to this place. You'll see candidates move all over the place trying to recruit delegates, for their exercise. Meetings have been taking place with cultural associations, with CSOs, students, what have you. So much is happening, but the fact of the matter is that we need to get this exercise right, and to get it right, we need time. That's all we're saying. And the time
you've also reiterated something over and over again, Engineer Sonny, and I think it is applaudable. And that is the fact that we need to get it right. We need to get the selection right. One of the issues a number of people have been considering that should be on the table at the political party candidate level before they become aspirants are the governance issues. And so the question then would be, what are those issues that you, as chairman of IPAC, will be saying maybe all political parties should factor them in? For instance, there are those who are wondering, how come local governments are not as autonomous as they ought to be? There are those who are wondering, once they, on the front page of one of the dailies this morning, we have a story that talks about governance and politicking competing. So what are the things that you think the political parties at the political party level should make election issues so that governance starts from the political parties and not after they become aspirants, but as candidates?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned local government, which is the closest tier to the masses, and if you can't get it right there, believe you me, once we miss that, and for a long time we've been missing getting, politics and elections in particular right at that, level of the governance, and that's why if you are following IPAC, we have said that we may boycott future local government elections because we have observed that there are some parties that are using other parties to give credibility to crime, because if you watch, closely, what happens at local government elections in this country is an organized crime. How can you say that only one party wins all the councillors, all the chairmen of local government? And then we're now saying that we cannot be used, to entrench, organized crime in this country. So we have told some of these governors, because it's governors that are the culprit here. They're the one. I know that National Assembly has listed the issue of transferring the conduct of elections at local government to INEC, so that at least we can have some sanity in that. It's in the bill. It's in the amendment, the constitutional amendment, process. So, but we are sounding a word of warning that if governors frustrate that, then some of the political parties, all of us, aside from the 3 or 2 who wear the whole sway, that where they have governments, always, make a mockery of democracy, will boycott the elections. So that's one thing that IPAC is doing, and like I told you, IPAC has been organizing workshops, retreats and things like that to address issues like how do we come by good governance in this country. The country should not be just about politicking, about campaigning. No, how do we get governance? Because that's what democracy is all about. Dividends of democracy. How do we deliver it? And these are things that recruitment of leadership is at the bottom of it. If you don't have the right process, you don't have the right people at the right places, you will not be able to solve that problem, because the rat race issue that style that we have of primaries and things like that, we don't want to go on with that. That's why we are saying that we are telling INEC that we want to get it right this time around, because that process, that's the beginning of the process. Believe you me, if we don't take care and get this beginning of the primaries right, nothing will be in the way that we want it. Everything until the end of until you have a government would just be foul, and we don't want a situation where we end up with governments that cannot deliver. That will put us in economic retrogression, insecurity, and what have you.
Well, which is what we all want, Engineer Sonny, and you have spoken to.
Yes. You know very well that to get it, you have to do your work, with the utmost caution and take time to do it.
And indeed, if there's anything,
well, we have to. Yeah, we just have to let him go. Right now. Well, we have to thank you very much for your time this morning, Engineer Yabagi Sonny, Chairman, Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and for giving us.
I'm also the Chairman, Action Democratic Party, ADP.
Thank you very much.
Now we know. Thank you so much for being a part of our conversation. Well, it's an endless conversation with so many other things, that need to be raised. One of those issues is the conclusion of the Senate yesterday concerning and a section of the Electoral Act. And there's an expectation that the House of Representatives will concur today. That's next on our list this morning. Stay with us.